Hi, guys. Welcome to Enlightened Awakening. I have a special guest here today. This is our premiere episode. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh,
I,
thank you.
yeah, thank you, Denise. So, I have a special guest today, Miss Denise Thistlewaite, and she has a phenomenal story to tell us. So, welcome, Denise.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Sean. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. Okay. So you gave me a little bit about your story before. So why don't you start with like right before your experience?
Okay, I will. So, I was just a little bit of background. I'm a mom of three, a wife. I had a job as an educator. I was a teacher for years and wanted to help kids in a different way. And I took a job as an internal affairs investigator for a very large school district. Um, it was very stressful, not what I envisioned it to be, but I was trying to deal with the transition and had to find a way to make this work because I was spending time for hours every day, either investigating really horrifying employee misconduct between employees themselves or against kids, or I was the hearing officer sitting at the end of a table with the union and the person that got the discipline and the representative of the district and the administrator while they battled out explaining their perspectives on why the discipline was issued in the first place. So it was an immensely negative work environment that I had to find a coping mechanism for because it was completely overwhelming and like really just started to consume my life. So that was the very beginning of what started out my journey.
Wow. Okay. So um while all that was going on, and you were really stressed out, um, tell us how you came to find Vipassana.
Yes, it was amazing, actually. So it was around the time, it was like 10 years ago, around the time when mindfulness was becoming a big thing. So I started reading a lot about mindfulness, and I actually found this class, it's a program really, at the University of Massachusetts, and it's called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. So I signed up for this class, and I'm doing it online. And I was kind of understanding the mindfulness stuff, but I wasn't really wrapping my brain around like, if this moment sucks, how do I deal with it? Because it just wasn't clicking with me. And part of the requirement for the course was to go on a retreat of some kind. So that caught my eye, and I kind of like put the study part aside and started researching retreats. And the way that I found Vipassana was just because it's a donation-based retreat. I had no idea what Vipassana was, but it was a donation-based retreat that was a 10-day silent retreat. And to me, that was like the universe saying to me, this is your calm time. Now you get to like de-stress and reflect and have quiet. So that's what made me sign up for this specific retreat in the first place, which
So Vipassana, is that the name of the company or is that like the type of retreat that it is?
So Vipassana is the style of meditation. So there's a gentleman named S.N. Goenka, who is the father of Vipassana. He's no
Sorry.
longer, oh, that's
We
okay.
got a visitor. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good. It's all good.
It's okay, baby. Mommy. Okay. Let's
She's
start that.
excited about what I have to say.
She's a mystical cat.
I love that.
Okay. I am so sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So go ahead. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So Vipassana is actually a type of meditation, and it was created by the father of Vipassana, his name is S.N. Goenka, and he is no longer with us on this earth. But it's a type of meditation. It's 3 days of a different type, and then you switch to Vipassana on the fourth day of the retreat, and it has a very specific experiential quality to it. And it's a mandatory 10-day. Like there's shorter ones that can follow if you've done the 10-day, but you have to learn the skill of Vipassana and the actual practice of the meditation before you can ever take any other classes with them. So it's a super immersive, very intense experience. That's the best way I can describe it. It blew my mind.
Wow. So it's a 10-day retreat, right?
It is. Yep.
Tell us about that. What's it like? Give us like the general breakdown, and then I guess we can go into detail.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, when you get there, I actually did go with a friend and we swore to each other we would have no communication because we wanted to get the best of it. I went with a friend and you get there and you go to this little, like a it's a really isolated building in the middle of the desert in 29 Palms, California. And it's just so surreal, like a strange little mirage. And you go in and you sign in and you have to sign this contract of noble silence. So they take your phone, they take your watches, they take any electronics. You can't have a journal, you can't have reading material. You basically just have clothes. You take your car keys, you send your last text to your family. I'm going dark. And they take
Wow.
everything and they lock it in a cabinet and you are completely
Kind
isolated.
of like you're in the CIA undercover.
Holy cow, exactly. Exactly. I was scared to death. Like I knew they were going to do all that, but when I got there and I'm like handing over all of my stuff, I kind of started freaking out. I'm like what am I doing here? And I had practiced meditating at home for like 2 hours at a time. We get the schedule and we're going to be meditating for like, I can't remember if it was 12 or 14 hours a day. It is
With no
just
breaks?
there are some breaks in between, but you're basically constantly meditating. So it was just a real experiential change of mindset for me right out of the gate.
Yeah, we
So
don't realize how attached we are to our phones and things like that until somebody makes us takes them and we know they're gonna be gone for a while. Like,
yeah,
just like going into a courthouse or something, you're like, "What? No phone?"
I know, right? And this is for 10 days of like crazy isolation. So I was even worried about myself. I'm like, what if something crazy happens to me and like my family they can't locate me, like my location's turned off, the whole thing, all these things are going through your head. So it was pretty anxious ridden moment handing everything over. It was probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do in the retreat.
So, what if emergency did happen? Can someone call the retreat place?
Yes. So you text your family the main number, and they said that if they need to reach you, they'll write on a board like your name to come to the office and they'll come and seek you out because they know what little cabin you're staying in. They'll pull you from the meditation if they have to and like tell you what's happening if you need to leave.
So you're all in separate cabins. You're
We
not like
are.
all in one big room.
Yeah, we're only in separate cabins when we're sleeping. We're all in one big room when we're meditating. However, so there were like 32 men and 32 women, or 36. And we did the orientation together. And there were a lot of couples there. So boyfriend, girlfriends, significant others. And they were like, okay, say your goodbyes because then you change and the women are all together and the men are all together. And you do not see the other side for until the 11th day when you're totally done. So everybody was just like saying their goodbyes and getting ready to separate. And then the meditation hall itself, we all had these little like 3 foot by 3 foot squares that were our assigned space for the whole retreat anytime it was a meditation time. But we then walked to our cabin and spent the night in our own little space when it was time to sleep.
Wow. And that's the normal amount, around 60, 70.
Yeah, I want to say 72. So it would be 36 and 36. I might have gotten the numbers wrong in the front end, but yeah, it's and it fills up fast when you're trying to get on. So I want to say it was like 3 months at midnight. I had to get on and you write this little thing about why they should let you be in the retreat and a little information about yourself that's just regular name and where you live and all of that. If you've ever done this before, if you have any history of mental illness, because that could be a factor. And then you
Does
wait a couple weeks.
ADHD qualify for mental illness?
What was that?
Does ADHD qualify for mental?
I don't think it does. I think everybody has some form of ADHD, right? But yeah, it definitely isn't helpful when you're supposed
Does
to be.
anybody bail?
Some
Do you
people
know?
disappeared throughout it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So there might be like you're sitting in your space and all of a sudden, like the person 2 rows up and 3 to the right isn't there anymore. And you don't know what happened until the end when everybody gets to talk, like the very, very end before you're leaving, which was also really wild.
right. Okay, so now we're in there where you've got the whole setup described to us, where everybody has their own little square. You do 10, 12-hour meditations a day.
Mhm.
At night, you retreat to your own little tiny cabin space by yourself. And you're doing this for 10 days, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes people will just disappear. I guess when you come out of your meditation, you notice people are gone, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then, so like, are there different phases of these different days, or is it just like exactly the same thing every single day?
So the first 3 days are different than 4 through 10.
Okay.
And the first 3 days, what you're doing is so you're sitting in blocks. Like say the gong will ring on the first every day. The gong rings at 4:30. You hear somebody walking around and physically knocking a gong sound.
4:30 in the morning?
At 4:30 in the morning. Then
Okay.
you like grab your blanket and you trek up this hill. And I went on Valentine's Day week. So it was February. It was cold outside, but you are in the desert in California. So it wasn't awful, but I put like my big comforter and you put your slides on and you trek up this hill and you get to the meditation hall. And you have to take off your shoes and you go to your assigned space. And you're basically for the first 3 days, you're just, it's called anapana, and you're just focusing on your breath and the sensation at your nostrils and your upper lip. So you're just breathing out, you're breathing in. Like, is it feel tickly on the left side and not the right? Do you notice that you're breathing heavier today? Just any focus of the breath. And you do this for 3 solid days, for hours. So say your meditation started at 4:30. I think at 6:30 the gong rang and you leave and you go eat breakfast and you can't have eye contact with anyone. You can't speak with anyone, of course. So you're just like looking off. Like you
So
won't look
isn't
at
this
anyone.
like, I mean, I grew up Christian, but not Catholic. Isn't that kind of like what the nuns do when and the priests and stuff
Yeah,
when they go?
yeah, yeah. That sounds exactly right. So you're like, you get your breakfast and it's like, Shauna, you and I are sitting across from each other and we're like, I'm looking over here and you're looking over here. There are these long, like lunchroom tables, like in middle school,
Mhm.
and you just are not having contact with anyone. So, and the things that are going through your mind are insane. But so the first 3 days is just the anapana breathing. So you do breakfast, you leave, there's this huge walking path that's about probably a half mile in length. I needed that so much. You're just walking and walking and walking and walking. You go shower, a gong rings, it's time to go meditate. You go for your next session. You're sitting for hours until a gong rings and it's time for lunch. Then you go to the meeting, a different hall that's like a cafeteria. The food was out of this world, vegan
Ugh.
food. It was amazing.
Oh, it was
You eat
vegan food. Like
lunch.
what kind of
Oh,
stuff?
yes, everything vegan. You eat lunch, then you can go back to your room. You can lay down if you want. I went back to the path, walked. Another gong rings. You come back, you meditate for hours. There's no dinner. So it's breakfast and lunch. And then at the end of the meditation day, I want to say it was 9 to 10, you're sitting in your space and they wheel in like this old TV and it has a video on it of SN Goenka. And he's telling you what you're experiencing now. Like today was your first day and this is what you're feeling. And that's how every day ends with this it's called a discourse summary of what's happening in your mind, what's happening maybe in your body. Because it was sitting that long, it takes such a toll on your body to sit still for that long. It's just, you're achy, you get headaches, like it's just crazy. Then the fourth through the 10th day is actually Vipassana meditation. And through the video on the day before, he's teaching you how to do Vipassana meditation, which is a totally different ballgame. So the fourth day onward, You're still doing all of the coming and goings that are the same, but you're no longer focusing on your breath. You are now focusing on like a 2-inch section of your, say, your top of your head. And you're like concentrating on it until you feel anything, any movement, anything. Then you go to another 2-inch spot and another 2-inch spot. And you go from the top of your head to the tip of your toes and all the way back up again for 12 hours a day for the next, what, 4 to 10 days, 6 days you're doing this. It is crazy. So the concept is you are loosening energy that's been trapped. And as you're doing this, you are shaking things up and letting them start to bubble up to the top. Emotional things, regrets, and all of the lectures are about not having, they're all about being equanimous. So not having anything that's good or bad, but always just being at the level of
Balanced out.
Yeah, exactly. So when you start craving something or when you start pushing something away, you are not in that state. And it's all about trying to bring your mindset and your energy back to that state of this moment and just loosening any blocks that you have.
Would that include like past trauma?
Oh, I'm absolutely sure that it does. The weird thing is, and I'll get to the dark night in a minute, but everybody has different things and everybody reacted in different ways, which was kind of crazy. So we do the Anapana for 3 days, right? And then the 4th day, now we're doing Vipassana, and you're just focusing on these energy, like the little tiny squares all throughout your body. Now you're loosening all of this stuff, and emotionally, some people were crying because it would bring back a lot of memories and emotion, right? So some people start crying, some people would be laughing, like the rest of us are quiet. There's a teacher sitting at the front, like facing you. And I was just like processing and thinking of things that you have not thought about for years. And you can't stop the thinking. People say in meditation, you're trying not to think. That absolutely is not true. You can't stop thoughts from coming into your head, but it's your reaction to them. And it's the thinking about the thinking that causes all of the misery. So it was bringing back all of this stuff for me. And I was just like, okay, like trying to process all of it. Right. Then around the 6th day is when he says, you might start experiencing something. Now, I had read about Vipassana a little bit before I went. So obviously, I'm like, right, you want to research whatever you can before you go and throw yourself into the situation. So I knew that there might be a dark night, and I knew that I might have like some out of body kind of strange experience that would be negative. So I kind of was like, okay, it's not real. It's in your head, like mentally preparing myself. So on the 6th night for me, I was sleeping, but I guess it was like a twilight kind of falling asleep. And all of a sudden, I am feeling like spiders everywhere, like all over me, spiders. And I'm like on my face, like, and I get up and I go into the bathroom. There's a mirror between the 2 rooms, like a Jack and Jill cottage kind of thing with the bathroom. And when the light's on, the other person can't come in because they know somebody's in there. And I'm like looking in the mirror and I'm like, this isn't real. Like, there's nothing on you. Okay, this is all the dark night. I go back to sleep. I lay down, spiders everywhere. And I'm just constantly like, and the weird thing is, one of the things you sign in the contract when you get there, you cannot kill anything. You can't kill a bug. You're supposed to safely take it out, like you're respecting all life. So I'm like, holy.
I raised my kids like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how you
They
wish
weren't
you
looking. I killed a
were.
bug or two, but I'm saying.
Just don't tell anyone. So I'm like, the whole time it was paranoid. And maybe that's why spiders came up for me. I don't know. But I was like, oh no, like there's going to be bugs or a snake or something in here. And I'm constantly like looking for things I need to help out the door. Right. But so that was my dark night. And it was really intense. And it was all night long, all night long.
Did you get any sleep?
I didn't. I was
Oh,
just, and again, I don't know if I was like in and out of conscious sleep or not, but for me, like I literally had like some marks on my face, like
from
just little scratch marks.
oh
Yeah.
my
From like
god.
constantly just wiping.
Did you
And the
talk
crazy
to
thing,
okay, go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say the crazy thing when I came home weeks after, my husband is like, why are you touching your face all night while you're sleeping? And I didn't even realize it. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
So crazy.
So, did you talk to anybody afterwards and find out if that was like a common kind of thing?
I did. So, okay, let me back up one little thing. If
Okay.
you're going through some serious trauma, you can sign up during the lunchtime hour from like 1 to 3 where you can talk to somebody if you're freaking out. So there's like a little hut that's off from the meditation hall. And there's like these 3 chairs sitting outside of this little door. And I was like, when I got there, I'm like, there's no way I'm speaking. I am not talking to anybody this whole time. So I did not do it. But there were people like after like the second and third day start to line up outside that door. And I'm like, wow, they're really dealing with some stuff. They have to talk to somebody. By like the 8th day, there would be like 30 people waiting in that line because they needed to talk to a counselor about what they were dealing with. It was crazy. So I forgot
You
what
know
we
what
were
this
for that.
I don't wanna make you forget anything.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this sounds like an ayahuasca retreat.
It does without the drugs, right? It's just your
Right.
own mind playing all these tricks
Right,
on you.
without
And
the plants.
and the I keep saying crazy, but one of the craziest things is being in silence and having no outlet at all. Your mind does really strange things because not only are you first you start making up stories about everybody because you don't know anything about, like, you can't not do that. So I'm
Right.
walking along the path and I'm seeing all of these women walking, and your whole mind just starts talking to itself, like both sides of a conversation. I'm like, what is happening right now? But you start making stories about things, you start like creating scenarios in your mind, none of which are true at all. And it's literally starting to drive you a little bit crazy that you're just so trapped in your own thoughts and there's no outlet. Even if I could have written journals, it would have helped.
Right.
But yeah, it was
But
just
they won't even let you do that.
they won't. And you're not allowed to have anything. And that's the one rule that I broke. So I had the worst memory.
Did you have
And
a Snickers bar?
no, you know what's so funny? I was
I
thinking
would
about
have been like, "Say something, I'll kill you."
making some snacks, but then you are worried that critters are going to get in there because they're going to smell the snacks, right? So I was like, oh
Right.
no, I'm not bringing any snacks in.
I
But
wouldn't kill him to be mean. I would kill him because he's eating my Snickers bar.
so
It's fine. You
I
go
was
find
so
your
worried
own.
I was going to forget about what was happening to me. I
Mhm.
was taking little stacks of napkins back to my room and I found a pen like deep in my bag. And I'm just taking these little napkin notes, writing as tiny as I can so that I could just remember like what was happening. So it was just more like bullets of this is what I felt, boom, 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 just
Why
so
don't
I
they
would
let you
remember.
do that?
I think it's because they just don't want you processing anything outside of your brain. You're supposed to just be like letting everything come
Oh,
and
yeah.
letting it go. So at the end, oh, your question was, did people have different experiences? At the very end, on the 10th day, there's a time that's coming at, I think it's at like 3 in the afternoon, or maybe it was noon, where you know that the big gong is going to sound and it's the end of noble silence. So I was even all in my head about that. I'm like, oh my God, I've been with these women for so long and I feel like I know them because I've created my own stories. But what's going to happen when the gong sounds? Are we not going to talk? Or is it like we don't know each other? So here comes the day, the gong sounds. Everybody was like, oh my God, and just sat together in groups, in big groups and small groups. And we're like, oh my God, what happened to you? Did you have a dark night? Oh my God, I had an awakening. And everyone's just talking frantically about what happened. They had to come out at it was like almost midnight. And they're like, ladies,
Get
10:30
out of here.
time.
Go
Go back.
home.
In the morning, you have to get up and clean the cabin and help clean all of the facility so it's ready for the next group. We were so excited. We just could not even stop talking. But some people got physically sick. Like my thing was the spiders. Someone was telling me about their whole face melting off. Someone else is talking about how they couldn't stop vomiting. They're like physically sick because of all the stuff that was coming up from them. So one girl had like a horrible migraine and a fever. Like it was just really bizarre how it affected different people in different
Did you
ways.
get anybody's numbers so you could talk to them afterwards,
I
like, and see if that was really all the stuff coming up and now they're way better off?
Yeah, so I have a couple people that I've kept in touch with. A few are way better off like me. Like it was an amazing experience for me. And there are some that are not there, they can't shake their dark night. Like
Like,
they're
they're
not
still
in a good
going through
headspace.
the
So
churning
yeah,
up.
they like need to go get therapy to try to like move on further just because it was such a traumatic thing. But for me, I think because I went through the dark night on the 6th night, for me, the 7th, 8th day was when I had my awakening. And that to me would be worth a million dark nights, like for the rest of my life, because I had the most unbelievable awakening enlightenment experience I never could have believed.
Was it a Kundalini awakening?
It was like I completely disappeared when this happened. It's so hard to like,
Like an out of body experience for
it
you, basically.
was, it was. I was like super like, so I had already had the dark night. I was super into the meditation space. I was feeling the vibration of energy all around me. Like it was a different day. It was a different experience. And the next thing I knew, I was completely engulfed in this luminous love and light. Like my whole body disappeared. My whole spirit became one. I was not in that room. It was like the most earth shattering, transformational experience I never could have even imagined. And I'd have no idea how long I was in this place, but I just know when it was done, like I was like sobbing, like, you know, when you like you're catching your breath because you've been
Yeah.
trying so
I
hard.
do that when I watch freaking movies.
I,
I'm like, you know,
it was like the craziest. I'm so sopping wet. I'm crying, shaking, and I was like the happiest.
can you tell
It,
us any details about where you went when that happened?
it
Do
was
you
just, it wasn't even like it was a place. It was like, I just completely dissolved into love. It was like
Oh.
there were no people, there was no energy, there was no place. It was just this overwhelming, bright love that just completely enveloped you, that you were a part of, and everything and everyone was a part of. You were not a separate person. You were like one with the universe, with God, with spirit, with every person that was in there. And I was raised Catholic. And before I left for the retreat, my husband was like, oh, please be a Catholic when you come back. Like he was worried about religion, like effect of this. And I totally believe in Jesus, and I know, and I still believe in all of that. And I guess now I'm a Catholic Buddhist because I just was like, I believe all of that and so much more, where before I was like, you know, I went to church, I went through the motions. I was kind of meh about spirituality, not like I believed in heaven, but I really wasn't sure about what it was. Like I felt it. This was heaven. This was everything. This was,
You're a new age Catholic.
yeah, exactly. There you go. There's my new label. So I just it just completely transformed me. And the crazy thing about it, when I got there, I was like so stressed out and I was freaking out about the stress I was dealing with at work. And after this happened to me, I had a whole new perspective. Like, I was like, oh my God, these people need help. These people that I'm listening to tell their horrible stories, they're in so much pain and they keep making these mistakes over and over again because they can't break the cycle and they need help. And I came back with such a totally different perspective on how I can counsel people through the repeated offenses and all of that was they were going on like in their head because of the way that they were trapped in this emotional state of being because of their mindset. They couldn't release it. And I mean, this whole thing just absolutely changed my life in every
Wow.
way.
Are there any other, like, can you give us specifics about how it changed? Actually, before we get to that, you were talking about your awakening experience. What happened when you returned home? How did that go? I mean, you
Oh
said your husband was like, you still
my God.
remained a Catholic. I hear a lot of people after NDE experiences, a lot of them will get divorced because they're just a totally different person
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. That's so important. So, yeah, my relationship with my family, like obviously I came home and I had kids and my husband and my close friends that knew and my boss that knew what I was doing because I was going off the grid, my parents. I told them about everything that happened to me. And I absolutely assured them that I believe in everything I believed in before. And my husband was like very comforted because he could see that I was just happier. And he was so glad that this had a
Mhm.
good outcome for me, the whole experience, because he knew how stressed I was going into it. It was strange when I told people about what happened when I got specific about the dark night and about the awakening experience, because some people were like, oh, they just put drugs in your food, or you got subliminal messages when you were listening to the video. And and I felt like then I wasn't sure what was happening to me, but I knew that wasn't it. But I was like, I have to research this and figure out what happened to me, which I did. But how it
Oh,
helped me in work was it gave me it completely changed my black and white view of this is the rule, you broke the rule, this is the consequence. Those things were still necessary because I was in a high ranking position and I had to do that. It was my job. But the way that I spoke with people about how they can make better choices, I've had so many people say to me, you really made a difference for me because of this. And that's why I was like, I have to do more research on one, what happened to me and why I had a dark night and why I had an awakening. And two, what happens when you realize that you're not what's the story that's in your head, that all that you're thinking is not always true, and how I can incorporate that to help other people have happier and live better lives. So when
right.
I got back to, I we spoke earlier about like I was feeling super happy and energized and everything, and I like had this great new perspective, but then that all changed for me because maybe like 4 or 6 months out, I started to feel super depressed because it was like it hadn't happened. It was like it was a distant dream because I didn't feel that feeling anymore. And every day that I was removed from the retreat, I was like yearning for that feeling of love that I
Oh,
felt inside, and I didn't know how to get it back. So that was scary because I was like, now am I just going to get sadder and sadder because I'm yearning for this thing that I can't have?
right.
So that was hard to break free from.
Mhm. I hear that a lot from NDEers as well. They're like, yeah, a lot of them go into a depression because after feeling that immense unconditional love, there's nothing like this on the planet. Not even when you fall in love for the first time and everything's perfect. It doesn't even begin to compare to that. And so
Yeah.
people usually end up going through these depressions, when they first get back. It's
Yeah, it
yeah.
was really hard. So I literally prayed. I meditated still every day after I got back, but I was like praying for a way to find my way back. So I leave work one day, and I used to walk on Mondays where my office building is, right one block over. There's a Trader Joe's, and I used to walk there on Mondays every Monday every week and get my salads and fruit for my lunches, because I usually didn't get a lunch and I'd be eating at my desk. But one day there's a bookstore, a used bookstore right next to the Trader Joe's. And I was like, I'm going to go in there and see what they have. So I go into this bookstore and I speak with the owner, and I'm like, spirituality books, metaphysical. And he's
And
like,
you saw
oh,
Harry Potter.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking at these books, I'm reading books. I spend my whole lunch hour in there. I'm not finding anything that's helping me, nothing. So I start to leave and I look up and I see this book. I actually have the book here. It's tan, no
Nice.
jacket cover, super high up on this shelf. Like you can't even see what it says.
Right.
I couldn't even reach it. So I go to the owner and I'm like, can you
Oh, I
read
kinda
that
see I
book
see
to
it
me?
does say something, but it's really hard to
Yes.
s
Yeah, but you couldn't see it. It was like this. So I'm
Right.
like, can you get that book down for me? So he gets the letter, he gets the book down, and it's called After the Ecstasy, The Laundry by Jack Kornfield. And I open the book and I start reading, and it is about exactly what happened to me, about having an awakening and having to return to regular life where it's just the humdrum, mundane, going through the motions of your job, making dinner, all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, like this, I was meant to find this book. That
I
was my
believe it.
first serendipitous moment. And I swear to God, it has been nothing but that since. Like
That's
it completely
synchronicity.
changed my life and started my journey of I have to find the answers to these questions. And it's been 8 years since. I've been reading and reading and writing and writing and writing, because just there's a key to all of this.
See, I
And
wonder how close that is to what they do for NASA astronauts, because there's when you go out into space, it's so quiet that we don't even realize there's like a hum
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
sound to the earth because of the
Oh,
vibration. And
uh-huh.
when they're up there, they can go through this kind of like depression type thing, like what you're talking about, from missing the hum that we don't even realize is there
Yeah,
until it's not there. So I
yeah,
wonder how
exactly.
close that is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that that's way more intense, because you're not physically walking around and, doing some somewhat normal things between the meditation, but the silence is insane. And when I came back to work, it was the craziest part, because I had been in the middle of this huge investigation, and there was a big siege and a confiscation of all this property while I was gone. So my first day back to work in my office, they're like, we need you to go to this huge warehouse and start doing some inventory on everything that was taken, that we're dealing with the feds. I go to this gigantic warehouse with these bright lights and tractors and the sounds and the echoes, and I was freaking out. I went from zero stimulus, coming to my very quiet home with my quiet kids and husband, walking into work where everything was like bright and loud and overwhelming. And it was the hardest week I have ever faced, because it was so like, I mean, I had to separate myself. I was having anxiety attacks because it was just too much too
Yeah.
fast. But thankfully that dissipated.
So you said it was in the desert. There was like it wasn't in the woods where any birds were chirping or anything like that. It was like utter
Oh
silence.
no, there were birds. Yeah, there were birds. That's all you heard were birds and crickets, and it was so cool. Like the nature sounds they were so loud because there was no other sound.
Mm.
I two times a snake crossed my path when I was on the trail.
Do you
And
know
and
what
I just
kind?
thought, wow. And then afterwards, somebody was like, oh my God, that's such good luck. That's so amazing that a snake crossed your path. But yeah, there was definitely wildlife going on around you, which added a whole other fun element to the experience as a whole.
Wow. Wow. So snakes are good luck, huh?
That's what I've been told.
Yeah. I had a pet snake. I love reptiles.
Yeah, they scare me.
My hair's the color of a Targaryen's, and I like the dragons.
There you go. You're a descendant. You could have ridden one like in House of Dragons.
Right. Oh, that was a great show. Great, great show. So, okay, so you found the book, you did research. Um, Tell us about the research. Like, what's in that book that was destined to be on your path?
So this book was about like reaffirming that this really happened to me and that I can get past this depression, which was huge. Then I started reading tons of self-help, spirituality books, tons of different authors. Um, I mean, so many. And I write about them in my book and how they influenced me. But it was the first thing that I learned that was so important was about what happened, the experience itself, the loosening of the energy and things bubbling up so that they could be released. Like all of the blockages that I was feeling to get rid of all this negative stuff that I had been holding on to and pushing down. So that was huge. And now that's my explanation. No, I wasn't drugged. No, it wasn't subliminal messages. This really works, like that everything was being released because we were
Did the
all
author
energy.
of that book go on a retreat like this too? Or did it have,
No, he's such an enlightened being,
oh,
service
kind of like
on
a
this earth.
Buddha or something like
Yeah,
that?
he's just amazing. His name is Jack Kornfield, but there's so many like John Kabat-Zinn and Thich Nhat Hanh, like Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer. They all just have these amazing experiences that just for me, I could not read these books fast enough. They just so resonated with the truth that they had found that I was looking for. And but the biggest thing I think too, and aside from figuring out what happened to me and realizing that was all good thing and it really was true, was the separation of ego and higher self, and
Oh,
that you are not what you're thinking. Like you have thoughts, but the thinking that goes with it is not true most of the time. And the stories that you make up in your head are not really what people are thinking about you, or and how you need to separate yourself and make choices to calm yourself down and pull yourself out of that emotional whirlwind of the story and be like, okay, like let's process this from a logical perspective. It makes such a big difference. And so many people are so caught in the whirlwind of the story in their head and they just act like that. And then they have to deal with all these repercussions and consequences had they just like taken a step back to take a breath and been like, okay, how can I look at this differently and make a decision to act differently? And our thoughts, our feelings, our words, our emotions, we really can choose how we want to react to situations. And that's what everything, that's where all the truth lies, in being able to find happiness in our own lives and within our soul,
yeah.
right?
Perception is everything. And there are always so many different perceptions.
Exactly.
Like each person can see the same thing. You have 10 people see the same thing, and they're all going to have a different perception
Exactly.
of what it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. I was writing in my book about that and about different perceptions. And so say we're in a bank robbery, we're involved in a bank robbery, right? And there's you and me and five other people, and somebody comes in, I'm hold them up, I'm taking all the money, everyone hit the floor, whatever. Like one person can be thinking, oh my God, that was the worst day of my life. And they're trapped in that and they have all of this drama and trauma about it, right? They can't break free. The next person, when they get through it, they're like, thank God I came out of this okay. And they're so grateful that nothing horrible happened out of it. They weren't shot, nobody was killed, right? Another,
Mhm.
like and you're all doing the same thing. It's happening to all of you, but your past, your perception, your thought process, the way you were raised, it all is like playing this huge part of how you're perceiving that moment and how you choose to act and respond to that experience, which could be really negative for the rest of your life or really positive and promote good change in your life. And we're all just literally sitting there. It could take 2 minutes and we're in the same scenario and none of us are having the same experience.
That being said, you can take the same person and have the same exact situation happen to them at two different points in their life, and their perception can
Exactly.
be completely different.
So true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's just bizarre, isn't it? How our mind works.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're, I feel like Earth is like a big school. And we're here to like learn and experience things, and that's what this is
Absolutely.
all about.
And I think that's why people get trapped. That like they're like, my life is horrible. These bad things keep happening to me. We are in a school. And until you learn to act differently, respond differently, do things differently, you're going to keep getting that same lesson over and over and over because you have not learned yet.
Until you pass the fourth grade, you're going to stay there.
That's right.
You are repeating, and all your friends are moving on, and you're like still the old kid in the class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I was a middle school assistant principal, we had a couple kids that were in the 8th grade that had their driver's license because they'd been there for a bit. It was
What? I never heard of such a thing. I mean, when I was growing up, it was rare, but you did see once in a while somebody that maybe was a year behind everybody else or a grade behind, a year older than everybody else, but it
yeah,
was rare. Wow, that's wild.
yeah, crazy.
Wow. Um, so what does life look like for you now as compared to before you went on the retreat? Like I guess kind of just like a as personal or not as you want to get, like just a normal day before and a normal day after.
Yeah. So before I was to a point of anxiety where I did not want to get out of bed in the morning because
So your
I
perception was like
well, I knew
everything
I
was
was
bad.
going to hear 10
Yeah.
stories today that everyone was worse than the last one. And I was like, how am I going to do that? Because I come home from work and I'm like trying to dump my garbage on the doorstep before I walk into my kitchen because I don't want to share that with my family. But I
Right.
was just so heavy and things were dark and I was just like so intense. Um,
That's what a lot of police officers go through too, right?
yeah, exactly. And I'm not that way anymore. I mean, it completely changed my personality because now I wake up even after I got back. I meditate, I clear my head, I set an intention for the day, and I stay in the present moment as much as I can. Like
Yeah.
I'm going through the situations and trying to help people get through things. And I have retired from that job with the school district. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so I'm working on my book. I have manifested my new life I'm a full-time voice actor now because I thought I want to do something fun and took some classes and set a lot of intentions and did a lot of practice. And that's what I'm doing now. And, but even if I was still in that other job and the years that I stayed in that other job, I mean, I was still in that other job for 5 years after the retreat. I
Mhm.
just really looked at things completely differently and
Right.
tried to
So
help people
instead
get
of like
through that.
feeling like you just climbed out of a mud pit, it was more like, "Oh, I'm so lucky to have the things I have in my life. How can I help these people?" Kind of like
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Mhm. That's awesome. That's amazing. Wow.
It was amazing. I wish this for every person. Like to
Yeah.
be able to just take what I know and pour it into people's heads would be amazing because, oh my God, like I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I'm like,
Right.
this information that I have, if I had this when I was 20, I would have been unstoppable.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, you kinda gotta go through it in order to get there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, wow, that's amazing. Do you have any future plans for anything similar or anything like that?
Yeah. So, well, after I
Or
get
is
this
this
book
like a one
done,
and done thing?
no, after I get the book done,
Write your book.
yeah, I'm trying to get it finished. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, so I'm hoping to find a publisher so I can go that route.
Mhm.
Um, and and I would love to do talks about what happened and about getting out of your head and everything that I've learned. But after the book is out, I want to do a 10-day again because I will have a totally different perspective. So I mean, I'm sure there's another book in there because it'll be a completely different experience, like something I've
I
not
would
done
love
because I'm a different person now.
Yeah, I would love to have you back on the show right
Oh,
before your book
sweet.
comes
Yeah.
out.
Well, let's do the retreat together. Shauna, it'd be fun.
You know what?
Think about it.
Maybe. I'm a Gemini. It's really hard to keep me from talking, which is why I'm great for
You just have 6
podcasts.
personalities up here talking to each other.
I'll be like, "Oh, guys, shut up."
It is not easy.
I bet, man. Maybe. I mean, so when are we looking to have your book out? What's like do you have a target date or no or
Yeah, so, I'm hoping that I definitely want it done by December, done written.
oh,
Um, and I'm super close. I'm gonna spend a good 6 months trying to find a literary agent or just send it to publishing houses to try to get it published. If after, like, 6 months it's not getting published, I will probably self-publish it because I wanna move along and move on. Um,
right.
but I want to give it a shot and really see if I can get it published somewhere first. So that's kind of my timeline, within 6 months to a year, hopefully sooner rather than later. But time's just flying by. I thought I would have it done by now. It is actually my birthday week. I'm going to be 59 on Thursday.
No
Yeah,
way.
and I'm like, damn, I was supposed to have it done already.
Oh, you were way younger than me. I just turned 53.
I'm not younger than you. I'm going to be 59.
Yeah, yeah, you're no, you're like I'm younger than you. I thought you were younger than me.
Oh gosh, no,
Say it.
no.
Yeah.
Well, some good face cream and a nighttime ritual that we all love so much, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I go on the retreat and I'm like still need my serums and my face mask. Like that stuff
I just
came with
got that
me.
derma roller, you know?
Oh, nice.
I'm trying not to go under the knife. I'm too young for that anyway, but
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, absolutely.
Mm.
Well, you look fantastic.
Thank
What are you talking
you.
about?
So do you.
Gorgeous, beautiful skin.
Oh, thank you. So, one last question. If you had a profound piece of advice for our audience that you feel would help change their life, what would it be?
That's a good question. So I think I would have to say that it's your first of all, your past does not define you. Just because you've made mistakes in the past, you're able to make different choices and move on from that. And secondly, it would be in tandem to that, that you have choices in how you react to situations that will drastically change the effects of what's going to happen next. And if you can teach yourself to look at your thoughts differently and react differently, you're going to change outcomes that are going to make a huge difference and move in a more positive direction and be able to live a mindful, happier life every single day.
I have been toying around with that actually myself lately instead of the you know, oh, you that is so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you don't believe her, do an experiment. That's my thing. Like if
Yeah.
I get a theory, I'm like, huh, I have a theory. Let's see if we can do an experiment.
Yeah. So it's funny that you said that because when I went back to work and I was learning more about mindfulness, and I was like, how much am I in the present moment? How much am I really in my head in the past or worried about the future? And I set a timer to go off on my phone at like 10:23 a.m., 1:16 p.m., like different times. And when the timer went off, I would stop and I'd be like, what am I thinking right now? And I will be damned every single time I was in the past or the future. I was never right here, right now, like enjoying this moment. And when I started doing that, I'm like, I'm setting more timers. And I did that, and I was like forcing myself to come back to the present, come back to the present. Because right now, like I could be caught up in horrible things of the past and regret. And I could be so worried about, what's going to, I just dropped my son off at college. What's going to happen? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to like it there? But those things are not happening. Right now, I'm like drinking a cup of coffee. I'm in a safe
Mm.
space. Just bringing yourself back to the now can change everything about how you're thinking about all of those things. It's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for that. Um, okay, so if people would like to get a hold of you, I'm going to put all the links in the show notes, guys, so you can just go and just click right on the link. But if you would like to learn more about Denise's retreat or how you can get on one, or if you'd like to connect with her or find out about her book, um, basically everything is you do things the same way I do. Everything is an awakened life or her name. It's either one or the other, and you'll be able to find her. And all the links are in the show notes. Does
Thank
that
you
sound
so
right?
much. Yeah, yeah, it's all there, and I'm posted on social media every day. So, yep.
Right. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Denise, and
Oh,
being
thank
my
you, Shauna. It's
premier
been
episode.
such a pleasure. I truly appreciate you. I'm sending so much love and light your way, and I would love to come back and talk to you again. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Right. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.